Bonsoir, bienvenue aux séances ordinaires du Conseil municipal de la Ville de Westmount pour lundi le 16 octobre 2023. Welcome everybody to the regular municipal council meeting of the City of Westmount for Monday the 16th of October 2023. Thank you to those who have joined us in the room and those who are joining us online. I have just a few updates before I hand it over to, I think many councillors have some updates tonight. I just wanted to say many residents have commented on the statements that we've put on our social media posts in reaction to the terrorist attack that took place on October 7th. But I just wanted to say a special thank you to the SPVM and our public security that worked very, very closely within the community last week. We heard from many residents. Very understandably, there is, great concern. There is great heartache in the community and great concern. But I want to thank public security and the SPVM. Their presence was felt, and their presence was definitely seen. So thank you to that. And I also wanted to thank. I had the privilege of joining Rabbi Grushkow with our MNA Jennifer Macron and our Member of Parliament Anna Gainey on Friday night as well for Friday night services. And I just want to say how grateful I was to be able to be part of that community on Friday. We had shared, if you do have concerns, absolutely call the police. And that's all over our social media pages as well. And then the other thing that I wanted to update, which is an issue that many of our residents have talked about and have been very concerned about, which I share that concern, is that Westmount takes pride in being home to many public schools and private schools and CEGEPs. But we're also neighbors to Concordia and McGill. And of course, I'm a graduate of Bishop's University, which is another Anglophone institution in the province. As your mayor, I have been frustrated with Quebec government policies in regards to our institutions, which are pillars of the Quebec English-speaking community and key components of our educational landscape. I'd like to start by stressing that all of us want our children to be comfortable in French. We are committed to helping our young people have the linguistic skills to be fully bilingual and work in this province. While we are partners in promoting French, let's remind ourselves of the impact of the government's measures on our education system. Children of parents here on temporary permits, many of whom live in our city, can now only study in English for 3 instead of 6 years. As a result, many elementary and secondary school students are being forced to leave their friends and teachers midstream. This is not conducive to student success. We all remember that Premier Legault ended funding for much-needed new health sciences pavilion at Dawson College and diverted that money to the other CEGEPs. Bill 96 has capped enrollment for Francophones and Allophones at English CEGEPs, ensuring that they can never grow. On Friday, Quebec the government announced that it intends to almost double tuition for out-of-province Canadians from $17,000 to $9,000 and raise it for international students. This measure is clearly targeting Quebec's 3 English universities, McGill, Concordia, and Bishop's, and it ignores the fact that many of our young people choose to study elsewhere in Canada. It also ignores the economic and social benefits of having people from across Canada in our midst. As Westmounters, Montrealers, we take pride in being one of North America's top universities. We are neck and neck with the city of Boston. We are therefore calling upon the government to reverse its position and maintain the status quo. So, and just on a personal note, one of my favorite things to do is, as my friends' kids near the age of going to university, that many of them come to visit Montreal, and every single one that does falls in love with this city and want to come for all of the various reasons that we all know and love, and that they want to be part of this multicultural, dynamic city. And I just fear that we will lose out as a community on having those students attend those universities. So I just wanted to share while that has nothing to do within my municipal powers, and I can't really do anything about it, I really felt very strongly about that, and that I wanted to share my opinion on that. And now we'll get back to local issues, of which we can have some say over. So I'll start with Councillor D'Amico. We'll start with District 1 tonight.
So it is very clear that there is a clear and present danger to the safety, the sustainability, and diversity of Summit Woods. I hear the residents, I hear what's going on. I just want to let everybody know that this council hears the problems. We are working on it. And it's not always an easy question because there's an equilibrium between users, which we are trying to strike, all in accordance with a certain legal framework. So just to let you know that we are working on it and we hope to announce something very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor D'Amico. Councillor Roux?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Alors, j'aimerais premièrement souligner que cette semaine est la semaine des bibliothèques publiques. La bibliothèque de Westmount a été la première bibliothèque publique au Québec. Elle a ouvert ses portes pour la première fois il y a bientôt 125 ans. Ceux et celles qui fréquentent déjà notre bibliothèque savent qu'il est opportun de souligner l'importance de son rôle dans notre communauté et d'en être fiers. À tous les résidents qui n'ont pas l'habitude d'y aller, je vous invite à le faire, d'aller faire un tour et je vous promets que vous ne serez pas déçus. Elle est magnifique. Le personnel est accueillant, serviable et efficace. Vous allez être étonnés par tout ce que vous y trouverez. Puis vous pouvez commencer par vous mettre l'eau à la bouche en allant sur le site de la ville et en vous inscrivant au bulletin de la bibliothèque. So, for announcements, there's a special exhibition taking place at the gallery at Victoria Hall. All Westmounters are familiar with La Maison Urtubise on the corner of Victoria and Côte-Saint-Antoine, the northwest corner. A few years ago, in the garage/barn structure in the back, they found one of the largest collections of pictures on glass, cases and cases that weighed a ton. They've actually been able to print a few of them. And these are photos taken by Dr. Léopold Urtubise in the early 20th century. Urban life at the time, and there's pictures of Westmount at the time. So very interesting exhibit going on now. And then at Victoria Hall on Sunday, October 22nd at 2 p.m., there's, for families with kids age 7 and over, a storytelling event, The Luck Child. So that's Daniel Morden performing his favorite Grimm fairy tale in collaboration with the Montreal Intercultural Storytelling Festival. On Wednesday, October 25th at Victoria Hall at 7 p.m., there's a special Halloween screening of a cult horror film called Carnival of Souls. So it will be an evening of thrills and chills. For the younger ones, so kids aged 5 and up, there's a Halloween extravaganza at Victoria Hall Saturday, October 28th at 6 p.m. So this year we're off to see The Wizard of Oz. So please, kids, decorate a pumpkin at home, no carving, and bring it to the library between October 13th and 27th for the annual pumpkin decorating contest. In the Westmount Room on Wednesday, November 1st at 7 p.m., there's a lecture, The Beauty Paradox, Femininity in the Age of Selfies, with Chiara Piazzi, author, professor of sociology at l'Université du Québec à Montréal. I've got more. This week in the Westmount Room on Thursday, October 19th at 7 p.m., there's a lecture organized by the Westmount Historical Association on the evolution of the library with Peter McNally, Professor Emeritus and Director, History of McGill Projects. There's also our very own Wendy Whaling, the Children's Librarian at our library, and May J, Information Services Librarian, also at the Westmount Public Library. So the Westmount Public Library opened in 1899 with a collection of 1,992 books, very precise. The lecture will focus on the evolution and collection services and programs at the library. And finally,
There's more.
yes, there's more. My last one, I'll stop. So it's the last beekeeper's visit of the season. So in the Story Garden on Thursday, November 2nd at 1:45. I could go on for longer than the council, but please go online and see what there is, and I'll have lots more for November.
Just
Thank
to
you.
follow up on events, because our next council meeting will be after these two events, is the Remembrance Day ceremony is November 5th in Westmount, because Remembrance Day actually falls on a weekend this weekend, and the RMR and everybody who supports our ceremony is at Place du Canada on the 11th. So we look forward to seeing many of you there on the 5th. And as well, our new residents and volunteer cocktail is November 1st this year.
Thank you. Could I say something
Oui.
further to what you said in the opening? Your opening
Oui,
statement?
oui.
Comme la francophone sur ce conseil, et j'aurais aimé savoir qu'on en discutait, je me serais mieux préparée, mais c'est pas juste une question d'anglophone à Montréal, c'est une perte pour tout le Québec, les francophones. On gagne à avoir des étudiants étrangers à McGill, à Bishop, à Concordia. Ça expose nos enfants au monde. C'est des ambassadeurs pour nous quand ils retournent. Ça fait vivre le centre-ville. Il y en a parmi ceux-là, j'ai des amis, ils ont envoyé leurs enfants de New York à Montréal, bien, ils ont gradué, puis 10 ans plus tard, ils ont un condo dans le plateau, ils habitent ici, puis font partie de notre économie. Alors, c'est pour le Québec au complet, puis on a souvent des, je ne sais pas, je devrais dire des conflits, mais des situations où c'est anglophone, francophone. Celle-ci, comme bien d'autres, comme pour Dawson, je ne pense pas que ça devrait être identifié comme ça. C'est une perte pour le Québec au complet si on fait ça. Merci.
Bravo. Madame Bostock.
Tough one to follow. Public Works, believe it or not, winter is on the way, so our rotten weather is on the way. So we're going to be starting to winterize. It's fun. We will be winterizing certain pipes and fire hydrants, so you will see our Public Works Department installing flags by certain fire hydrants so that they are identifiable and visible when the snow is around. For our fire departments, the removal of the placettes has been delayed because of the excellent merchants festivals that have been happening at Victoria and next weekend at Green Avenue. So that'll be a bit of a delay there. We're also working on transforming our summer vehicles to winter vehicles, working on winter equipment for bombardiers, salt trucks, and smaller equipment, as well as preparing the outdoor Zamboni for the ice rinks. And that's all I've got for today, but lots of work happening at Public Works.
Thank you. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few announcements tonight. Good evening, everyone. So I'm happy to announce that last Friday was the official opening of Devon Park, and several councillors and many members of the administration were there. And it was a beautiful day, and it's so great to see a project like that completed. It was longer than planned. It was a bit more complicated. There were unforeseen delays. We would very much like to thank the residents up there for their patience, and additionally, I'd like to thank the Public Works team for all their hard work. It's really great to see a brand new park open. So I hope everyone gets a chance to go see it and enjoy it. Also, with some winter prep coming up, we will be installing the refrigerated rink in the coming weeks. So I just wanted to give you heads up that at some point they'll be needing, Public Works Department will be needing some parking spots on Melville. It's scheduled to open on November 13th, or roughly that week. Other good news is the Summit Lookout has reopened. This important restoration work was completed, and the terrace has been reopened, and the view is accessible to everyone. So again, that was an important project. We thank everyone for their patience. We know our residents cherish that special place, that view, and it's important to all of us, so go check it out. Additionally to Councillor Bostock's remarks, the Public Works Department will be cleaning leaves in the parks. They will be closing the ponds and all water features. They'll be removing the water drinking station in Westmount Park and the flowers that you see that have been around the city. So thank you to everyone for all their hard work. It's a very busy season.
Thank you, Councillor Gallery. Councillor Aronson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My fellow councillors are looking forward, as we must, to winter and preparations. Not so fast, guys. We're not done with fall yet. And I wanted to make sure to call everyone's attention to the fact that we had an extremely successful fall festival put on by our Merchants Association in Victoria Village last weekend, in which over 150 participants came and carved pumpkins. There were games and fun, as well as our merchants with their wares and services on display, and 100 attendees children and parents in a wonderful puppet show that was put on in a bus that came to Victoria Village for the day. It was a fantastic initiative put on by our Merchants Association with some contributions from the city's Public Works team in terms of decorating and making sure that we had street furniture available during that time. So I wanted to thank everybody who made it possible for that festival. And if you enjoyed it and want to do it again, or if you missed it and would like to try this kind of event, we've got another one coming up this coming weekend on Green Avenue. Please do make sure to check our Merchants Association's websites, or I believe our social media may also be putting out some information about this as well. So please do come, one and all. Bring your kids if they're interested in this sort of thing, and we'll see you on Green Avenue this coming weekend. I did have one other comment I wanted to make. This one is less fun for me, but it's a very important part of the responsibility of an elected official. I owe the city of Westmount and its residents an apology. As in late August and early September, I got very excited about the possibility of bringing forward our environmental committee and announcing that we are going to be taking or asking for members or residents to put in their applications. And we will still be doing that. But I got ahead of myself. And unfortunately, the composition and mandate of the committee wasn't quite ready for the public. It will be forthcoming and soon, but I have to take responsibility for setting expectations a little bit beyond what I was able to achieve myself, and for that I want to extend an apology to all of the voters, residents of the city, and to my fellow councillors. I'm sorry for that. I will do better. Thank you.
But it is coming.
It's coming, but it's late, and I'd rather be honest about it and upfront than to not mention it at all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor Aronson. Councillor Kez has got some good updates.
I have one update, is that today's the deadline to fill out the school zone safety survey online. I encourage everyone to fill it out who has not. It'll be very constructive in helping us decide moving forward how school zones can be made safer and what action needs to be done regarding road reconstruction to make school zones safer. So it gives us a better idea of what you want and what works best. So please fill out the survey. Thank you.
Yeah, and on the survey, it was very interesting to see that at the very beginning, there was a significant response in the first couple days on the survey, which is important. And then a team went out to all the schools as well with the survey online in their iPads, ready to talk to parents as at all the pickup and drop-off times. And let's remember, the safest way to make schools zones safe is to have less cars in them and have kids feel more comfortable walking and biking to school. So that would be the best solution for schools, is to have less cars around them. So, but we look forward to all of the commentary, and there have been some changes around some of the schools, and you'll see there's a lot more bollards up, there's a lot more signage around all the school zones. So I think those we've had very positive feedback on that. Donc, on va commencer avec la première période de questions. For those we'll start with those in the room who take the time and to come participate in this. And then I don't think there's any questions submitted online, but there may be live from online. I love it when babies come to council.
Hi, how are you? My name is Leah Girardado. I live at 465 Mount Pleasant. And all summer I've been telling her, I'm sorry, sweetie, you're going to do your nap, but you'll see it's going to be so worth it, because this fall and this spring there's going to be beautiful wildflower and natives planted in front of her house. But now I'm afraid that my 16-month-old is going to think that her mother is a liar, my French, sorry, a liar. Because only grass has been planted in front of her house. And I was wondering if it was just like in the meantime, or if
Where where
on Mount Pleasant, the construction at the Mount Pleasant in between Sherbrooke and
Oh, okay.
She wanted to say hi.
Oh, in the beds there, in the retaining wells there.
Yes, exactly. And on the plans and what has been presented by the city, we were seeing beds of flowers, which maybe I can.
I would imagine it's I don't have the answer for that, but I think that grass is temporary. Like we have, I don't know.
I don't know if the Councillor Chamy and maybe.
Ça, c'est lui.
Oui.
We will get you an answer. I don't have the answer to that. I did see them rolling out the turf the other day, but I don't know if that's permanent or if that's to keep it in place for
Yeah.
not having the dirt roll out on, yeah.
It was supposed, I don't know if you see, no, you don't see, huh? I don't know if I can come closer, but like, if you check on the,
Yeah, I've seen, you've seen it as well. There is turf
yeah,
in the
exactly.
beds
And
where the
it's
trees
just for
are.
multiple reasons. Well, as you know, climate change, there is crazy episodes of rains now, and honestly, it is scary because I'm right at the corner, and Mount Pleasant turns into a river, and you might have seen even a photo on Everything Westmount 2 weeks ago. There's like, it turns into a lake. It is very scary, the amount of water that there is there, and if you plant grass, obviously the water doesn't get in the soil because there is no roots. If you plant natives, there's going to be, the roots are very deep, so it's going to get in, it's going to preserve the water in the soil. It's very much better for the sewer system. It's there's so many advantages.
Yeah, no, it's, and that was definitely part of the plan in the presentation, so
Yeah.
we will get you that answer.
If I can, Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
on va avoir la réponse, and I will get back to you this week.
Lovely. I think I sent like 2 or 3 comments on the page this summer, but I never had answers. So yeah,
Okay.
On the Engage Westmount page.
that's right. Yeah,
Not very engaging back, I guess. If
yeah,
that's,
exactly. I was like, oh, I guess yeah.
Okay, there's been a few glitches with some email
Yeah,
stuff.
they were never
Merci pour
published
votre
on the
question.
website.
Did we get your address? We got votre adresse?
Yeah, and I have your email address you've written before, so it's nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great evening.
And you'll see there's also some bump outs that have significant, like the water retention
Yeah, I
beds
saw the one
there.
at the top
Yeah.
of the hill. But yeah, I think, anyway, I can send you an emails with all the pros to plant natives there, not only for fighting the biodiversity loss, but also for helping the sewage system, system and helping floating. So it might maybe cost, and it won't even cost more because grass is so, like, there is watering and
Expensive
there is
to
like the
maintain.
GHG, the mowing, everything that you don't have to do.
So the Lexington beds, they haven't been finished, but they're beginning. They'll transition them. They had to put some annuals in them.
I noticed
But
that.
the idea is that this summer, some native and like perennials, and then they'll like move that down. So that's
Yeah.
also not going to be like,
Really happy to, I was speaking with the staff and they told me that. I was very happy to hear it.
You're adorable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
She's counting on you.
Next question? That's a hard act to follow. That's a tough act to follow.
to follow, yeah. I'm kind of along the same themes. I was just wondering about the Douglas Ellis Memorial Garden, because it's going to be, I'm interested in it for a few reasons.
Yeah.
You probably already know some of the reasons, but it's right across the street from me, and I found also that the cost seems very, very high. So I was wondering, is it going to be is this a huge project, like with all kinds of re-landscaping of the?
No, it's, I mean, the cost of everything is high.
Yeah.
Sadly. And the reason why we rejected the first bid, because it was only one bidder, I think you may have seen that, it was, I think, in August when that was, and so this has been an ongoing project with the victims and with Doug Ellis's mom of what they wanted, what they envisioned. And it's not a huge project, and it's integrating into the landscape there, but it is. There was a sketch that we had provided to the newspaper a little while ago. I can
I was trying to find
share
something,
that
some type
sketch
of
with
plan.
you as well. They wanted it to be facing near where the old arena was.
Right.
And this is all part of our settlement as well with the victims,
Right.
where the old arena was, and to have a sense of hockey about it somewhat. So there will be, on the walkway, we're building in what will look like a center ice, but it's not red and blue and colorful, but it is the shape of a center ice with some benches around it, and is being built into the landscape there. So it's not huge, but everything is costly. So it is.
Right.
But it's expanding on the walkway, so yes,
So you're
there will
not taking
be.
out trees or putting in like levels
No,
or
it's
anything
built
like that?
around, like the trees that are there are being integrated into it. And it's not, I mean, I think some people were wondering, is it a park? It's not a park. It will have a plaque. It will have a small some bronze skates that have been agreed upon with the victims as well as Doug Ellis's mom. And it's a contemplative space. It's a tribute to the bravery of the victims for coming forward. And
I'm sure it'll be lovely. I'm also wondering if there's any plan for what kind of plants go in there. Like, it would be really, really nice if we could use the pollinating, native plants, and as opposed to the tropicals that are
there.
everywhere.
Yeah, and that'll certainly be noted. What they are, like, the building part of it is for the center ice portion, a ramp around, like a walkway around it, and some benches. Nice. And what is interpreted as the ramp railing is meant to sort of be like a hockey board.
Okay, I'm sure it'll be lovely. I'm just more interested in the plants that'll go in there.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
and this project, it was hard. It was part of the settlement, and an important part, a very, very important part, much more so than the monetary aspect for the victims, was this part, but it wasn't set out what would that be. So it took a long time for that, and we really had to defer to the victims on what would they want, and where did they want it, and so that's why it's taken so long. But I think the work will be in the spring. It's not for this, they can't get it done for this fall, but it will be in the spring. And we hope that Matthew Bissonnette and we hope that Mrs. Ellis are there to open it and to really be able to speak about it.
Might be also nice to involve volunteers from the city to help plant, to have a planting day or something. Might be a nice gesture. I was thinking of that
and
as
I think very much like anyone who's obviously worked at the arena but knew these kids really would. That's a great idea. That's a beautiful idea. So we'll bring that one back, and I will pass on to the victims group that you had asked this question about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to add anything on that? Next question.
Yes, there's two questions on two different topics. Thank you very much. Thank you for the comment on the recent legislation that I was appalled by. I have not just heard about it,
Sorry,
but I sent a letter to...
Ms. Kapelovich, you're supposed to state your name.
Okay, Roberta Ann Kapelovich, and I live in District 6, and if someone wants to know the street, they can ask me privately.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. No need to give your address.
Exactly. And I just expressed strong concern about the CAQ legislation that is fundamentally like sort of the squelching of student life, the squelching of people coming to Montreal. It's the spirit of the law that does it. Students do have the option of becoming, Canadian students have not foreign students have foreign students also, but it requires more time. Canadian students have the option of becoming residents of Quebec while they're here and paying less. Requires some thought on the part of universities as to how to facilitate that. But my question was, how is the City of Westmount similar to the proposal of the adoption of a municipal rental board? Is the City of Westmount considering adopting a set of comments or advisories on this recent CAQ legislation on tuitions at Quebec Anglophone universities, given that Marianopolis and Dawson are within the borders of Westmount? You are representing your citizens, and it's very important. Also, the multiplier effect of Canadian students spending in Westmount, as you mentioned, does affect Westmount, the life of Westmount, the life of the city, and it's just a fundamentally negative policy.
Thank you for your comments on that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of agreement there, but I strongly support the City of Westmount adopting a set of resolutions and saying something to the Quebec government.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Okay, the second question is, and I've posed the question in writing, I'll repose it in writing so that it's isolated from other questions, is has the City of Westmount considered adopting a procedure to investigate well, first I want to preface this by saying I'm glad that there was efficacious SPVM behavior recently on a recent incident. However, there's a range and spectrum of police response to crime There is a range and spectrum of police response to crime. This is a matter of study in criminology departments across North America. So with that in view, has the City of Westmount considered adopting a procedure to investigate SPVM malfeasance, alleged SPVM malfeasance, failures to investigate crime that occur within the borders of the City of Westmount? And I suggest it is the right of the City of Westmount to have a procedure. The procedure could have a deterrent effect on malfeasance and cause the SPVM to be more responsible. I'm referring to an SPVM that was led by a different police commissioner, and hopefully more recent changes. There have been many changes in the police leadership since the time of this incident number. The incident number is MTLEV 12006000113. There is a real deposition and there is a real assault that occurred within Westmount.
Okay, thank you for your
That
commentary.
this procedure, so the request is have you considered setting up the procedure? It's the second time I'm asking the question.
There has not, the SPVM falls under the jurisdiction of the agglomeration, of which Westmount is a part of. But I don't have an answer for you.
No, yeah, I'm think about it, that's all.
Okay, thank you for coming. Next question?
Thank you for attending the meetings.
Thank you.
I'll edit that.
Thank you for attending the meetings.
Good evening, it's Richard Dufour
Hi,
from
Mr. Dufour.
22 Anwath. A few questions. Well, just a comment. I seems to be not the only person who has a problem getting a response.
I'm looking at your email is in my draft, which I apologize that I haven't responded to that. And I have a nudge from Lena, my assistant, saying you haven't responded to Mr. Dufour.
Oh.
And it's in my draft, and I apologize. So do
Okay,
you want to
well-
ask it in public and we can answer it, but I'll still provide you with a written answer.
Well, it's up to you. I mean, I have 2 apologies today, so thank you for the apologies. But apologies are a nice first step. But
We're just very, very
But
sorry.
you don't apologize. I mean, anyway, it'd just be nice to. Do you want me to state the question for the record, or do you want to?
Yeah, so do you want to ask about
So there
leaf
were
blowers first?
two questions. So just to follow up again with the environmental committee, which has been over a year and a half that is in motion, in discussion, whatever. Anyway, I'm sure you've got lots of things on your plate, but it would be nice to think that that would be one of your priorities, but that's not up to me to dictate your priorities. But the other question was, I was really happy about a year ago when the city council put up a ban on leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers. And I remember at the time there was a lot of opposition. There was a very vocal number of people here who were saying, no, it's too quick, it's too fast. And I remember the mayor clearly saying, hey, we've been talking about this for years. You guys need to kind of step up, and you've had lots of time to think about it. And then I was very disappointed to see that the city has declared a further postponement of this bylaw because of the supposed lack of supplies in terms of equipment. And when I read that, I did a lot of research. I made some phone calls, and I was perplexed because I could not find any shortages out there. So where is the shortage, and why was that? Why do you guys renege on that?
So I share your disappointment in that that didn't come into full effect this October, and it has been delayed into the spring, so we're getting through the fall season. My commitment had always been that whatever I ask of my residents, or our residents, we'll be able to also fulfill at Public Works in terms of doing our parks. That was important to me, that we could show that and for various reasons, partly supply chain, partly we did have an 8-week window where we had some complications this summer in terms of ordering and purchasing, because our managers were busy cleaning the parks themselves. So a couple of those issues led to them not being certain that they would be able to do it fully electric. And I was uncomfortable with asking our residents and the contractors. I mean, it's truly, our residents are not using gas leaf blowers, it's the contractors, or whatever, the people that our residents hire. And that was the reasoning for the delay. But it was not a decision that was taken with, it was not taken lightly, and it was not necessarily a happy decision, and one that councillors, a couple of councillors were really wanting us to push on it, but in the end, the majority moved that way. So it's not ideal, that's for sure. But
So just to clarify, so the problem was not necessarily that
it was supply. We did not have enough equipment within our own stock.
you didn't have time to order the stuff on time locally?
Well, there were like a couple issues, local supply chain issues, and yes, the strike messed up some of our planning for the year.
Okay, I understand. And can I just ask, when it comes time to the points 16, 17, and 18 on the agenda, if there could be an explanation or a preface to them, just to explain what they are when the time comes?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to comment on? No? Okay, are there any other questions in the room? No? Any questions submitted online, Monsieur le Greffier?
Oui, une question en ligne. Je n'ai pas le nom de la personne, je vais vous lire la question. When will the city be hosting visits to the recycling center and the landfill that service Westmount?
So those tours are booked for, correct me if I'm wrong, the 24th, 23rd, and 27th. And we're providing transportation. So if you would like to come and see where your recycling goes, and we're going to, the 23rd is the compost, is the recycling, and the 27th is the landfill day. So come ride the bus with us to, I think several members of council will join us, and some members of our administration. WRC. This is something that I often say to around the council table, is that this is part of our core business and we have a responsibility to manage it properly. And the way we manage that, the goal has to be less going to landfill. So anyways, I encourage, there are limited spots on the bus, but I encourage members to come on a field trip with us. And you can sign up on the website. So thank you for the question, whoever you are. Typically, I don't take anonymous questions, but. Okay.
I've got a confession to make. It was actually me because I forgot to announce it, so I just put it in the questions.
Stop it. Okay. He's just full of truth tonight. He's just just telling it like it is.
I can't do it directly. I'm going to just kind of do it indirectly to make sure people know about it because it's an important event, and I think it'll be
so the next
really
time
interesting.
someone tries to ask an anonymous question and I say you can't ask an anonymous question, they're going to say, well, Matt Aronson is allowed.
Oh, I'm definitely not allowed. I just did it anyway.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions in the room, il n'y a pas d'autres questions. On va commencer avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. Councillor Aronson.
Right. Back to the script. So, I move that the agenda of the regular sitting of October the 16th, 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Numéro 5, approbation des procès-verbaux. Encore, Conseillère Aronson.
I move that the minutes of the regular council sittings held on September the 18th and October the 2nd, 2023 be approved.
Thank you. Seconder is Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Item number 6, reports to council. There are no documents to be tabled, so we will move to item number 7. Is Vivre en Ville, registre public des loyers, and that is Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse.
You might want to read the whereases.
I will read the whereases, indeed. Whereas the housing crisis requires urgent action from the Quebec government and an effort to stabilize rents is a necessary first step. Whereas the unprecedented housing crisis and the explosion in rent prices are threatening social cohesion, sustainable regional development, quality of life, and the ability to pay from a growing number of Quebecers. Whereas Quebec municipalities are grappling with cost and increasingly serious social consequences of the housing crisis. Whereas the housing crisis is an economic issue and a factor in inflation, driving workers away from jobs and weighing more and more heavily on the citizens' wallets. Whereas the Civil Code provides rent control based on rental history, but does not provide a tool for making rental history accessible. Whereas the government and municipalities need up-to-date data due to the lack of conclusive data on housing and rent assessment in order to respond adequately to the housing crisis. Whereas housing is a provincial jurisdiction, but the Quebec government and Quebec municipalities depend on the limited data provided by the rental market report, a report conducted by a federal agency to exercise it. Whereas the adoption of a public, universal, and compulsory rent register stems from the Quebec government's jurisdiction over housing, I move that the National Assembly and the Quebec government adopt by the spring of 2026 a public, universal, and mandatory rent register to respond quickly to the housing crisis and to adequately apply the rent control provided by the law. That the data from the Quebec rental registry be made available to the general public and to municipalities that wish to have an up-to-date data dashboard on the rental market, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Housing, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the Minister of Cybersecurity and Digital Affairs, the UMQ, and the FQM.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Aronson. Do you have any further comments? I can add comments as well.
Yes, I do. 46% of our households in Westmount are renters. That number is probably a surprise to most people, but it affects far more people than we would think. What is being proposed here is simply a request or a show of support from the City of Westmount to ask the province of Quebec to establish a requirement for a rent register. A rent register is not rent control. A rent register is simply
Information.
Sorry?
Simply information.
Simply information. As it stands, there is a general asymmetry of information between a landlord and a prospective tenant. The landlord is obliged to reveal the previous rent paid on a property. That information is part of the standard lease agreement. I think it's called Clause G. But that is, the information that is in there is really left to the landlord to decide how he or she is going to complete that information. That therefore leaves the prospective renter at the mercy. I won't say mercy. Mercy is a strong word, but it means that the landlord has the information, the renter wants the information, and must trust on the good faith of the landlord to provide that information. What this does is this now obliges the landlord to provide that information. It also crowdsources the population to provide that information into a public database that rebalances that potential for a transaction. For any efficient markets, you need to have, you want both parties to have a similar level of information. And as it currently stands, it's
As you would with a housing sale.
With a housing sale. And so as it currently stands, that information has a potential for being imbalanced. This is a measure that will hopefully redress that imbalance. Again, this is not a rent control measure. This is simply a rental registry, and all that the only information that is provided there is the address and the rent, and that's it. And so that means if you are a prospective tenant for a building, you can look on this rent registry and you can see at this address in the last year X amount of dollars was paid for that property. And that goes into a public database, and it's accessible for everybody. So this is an effort. This is beyond the purview of the municipal government, but we are as a city, we are asking the municipal government the provincial government to take this responsibility seriously, and to put into place this very modest measure that would contribute to a more balanced equilibrium in the housing market.
So thank you for your comments on that. And again, just to clarify, this is not a Westmount registry by any stretch. It's Westmount joining other cities in expressing their opinion to the provincial government, and this is our way of officially expressing our opinion by moving a motion. And it is the housing is obviously an issue that we see in the news all of the time, and it's in very If you follow the Prime Minister around, it just looks like he just snaps his fingers and is going to build 5,000 more homes here and 5,000 more homes there. It's much more complex than that. And one of the real issues that's facing people, and we have the data to prove it, is the increase in rent as apartments turn over. And so on average, I believe the statistic in Montreal was 24%. And a 24% increase. In Toronto, it's closer to 40%. Those increases are not sustainable, and it is very, very difficult, in particular for young people, to stay in, or to be able to afford that. And we know that housing is everything, right? Dignity of housing is everything. And I think people would be surprised to know that 46, I don't think everybody fully understands that a huge portion of our population in our city are renting their places. And they are our citizens, and they are important. And we you know, not everybody feels the same way, but I do think this is a provincial jurisdiction, and we're lending our voice to the other cities that have already passed this. So I'll leave it now if anyone else wants to comment before they vote, or if they want to comment after they vote, or if they don't want to comment at all. Okay, so we will take a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. So it is passed. No? Okay. Next motion. So that was number 7. Number 8, Councillor Bostock, is request for proposals provision of a towing service for street snow removal.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $12,126.06, including taxes, tax credits for the provision of a towing service for street snow removal. Request for proposals number DDP 2023-039 to award to Dave Towing 7795211 Canada Inc. the contract for this purpose in accordance with its proposal for a maximum amount of $13,279.61. including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposals DDP 2023-039. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2009.
Thank you very much. A seconder will be Councillor Gallery. Any further comments? It's on the towing services for our
Towing services
snow
for
removal.
people who don't move their cars when we're
Which
doing
actually
snow
adds
removal.
quite a lot of cost to our snow removal operations in the winter.
Yeah.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 9, numéro 9, c'est encore Councillor Bostock. Request for proposal soil characterization study on various streets in the city of Westmount, DDP 2023-047.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $72,300, including tax credits for soil excavation. Request for proposals number DDP 2023-047 to award to Geninnovation the contract for this purpose in accordance with its proposal for a maximum amount of $83,126.93, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposals DDP 2023-047, and to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2042.
Thank you. I'm sure Councillor Aronson would like to second that. Any further comments on this? All in favor? Carried. Item number 10, numéro 10, appel d'offres sur invitation, installation et entretien d'une aire de glissade au parc King George à Westmount pour la période hivernale 2023 à 2024. Conseiller Gallery.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $11,968.58, including tax credits for the 2023 fiscal year for the installation and maintenance of a sledding area at King George Park in Westmount for the 2023-2024 winter season. Tender by invitation number INV 2023-019 to award to Snow Innovation Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $45,600 plus taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tenders by invitation INV 2023-019 to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2030.
Merci beaucoup. Councillor Roux would like to second that. This is our toboggan run, that was I don't know if you want to comment or you want me to comment? The toboggan run that was started during COVID, because we know that the freeze thaws and the rest of it, but it's not a guaranteed toboggan winter or tobogganing season unless you add some snow to the park. But what we don't need is perhaps, as you know, there was a time when we had to have public security and police dealing with the seemingly thousands of children tobogganing. That is not the case now that that the COVID measures have been listed. So last year was a little bit small. We're going to scale it back a little bit. We don't need to make quite as big of a toboggan run. So that's why the cost is a little bit lower than it has been in the past. Anything else on there? Madame Roux?
It might be better for the trees also, because last year we had a few incidents.
We had one incident, yes, where the snow gun got pointed in the direction of a tree and someone went on a break. But anyways.
Just to say, we were very aware and we'll be very careful this year.
Yes. So all those in favor? Carried. Item number 11, numéro 11, appel d'offres public, modification d'un système S08 de la cuisine de Victoria Hall. Councillor Peart. Councillor Peart. Thank you. Item 11.
Yep, you got it. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $175,826.99, including tax credits, for the 2023 fiscal year for the modification of the S08 system of the kitchen at Victoria Hall, tender number PUB-2023-046, to award to Teco Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $502,000, $247.59, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tenders PUB 2023-046, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2032.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Shammy. Any further comments?
Some renovation and upgrades to the kitchen area in Victoria Hall.
Okay, perfect. All in favor? Carried. Item number 12, numéro 12, appel d'offres public déneigement des ruelles, Ville de Westmount, Conseillère Bostock.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $392,415.10, including tax credits for alleyway snow clearing for the City of Westmount, tender number PUB 2022-040, and to award to Les Excavations Super Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $451,179.26, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tenders PUB 2022-040, and to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-2005.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Gallery. Any further comments?
Snow clearing.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 13, numéro 13, appel d'offres public, location de camions de 12 roues avec opérateur pour chargement de neige. Encore Conseillère Bostock.
Spending a lot of money tonight. I move to authorize the renewal of the contract awarded as part of the call for public tenders, PUB 2022-051, resolution number 2022-10-248 to Les Entreprises PEP 2000 Inc. for the rental of 12-wheel trucks with operator for snow loading for the 2023-24 period for a maximum amount of $615,834.51, including taxes, and to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $535,624.71, including tax credits for the purpose of this contract, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tenders, PUB 2022-051, and to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file 2022-10-248.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor D'Amico. Any further comments? These are the trucks that we load the snow with.
Big ones, so.
And I'm sure everybody is aware that snow clearing operations are one of the more significant expenses in our Public Works Department. All those in favor? Carried. Item number 14, numéro 14, modification d'un contrat augmentation du bon de commande pour honoraires professionnels supplémentaires au Parc Devon, the Conseil Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the contract awarded to BC2 Group Conseil Inc. for professional services of landscape architects, resolution number 2022-04-82, be modified and increased to a maximum amount of $99,453.38, including taxes. That an additional expenditure be authorized in the amount of $28,743.75, including taxes for the professional services of landscape architects with BC2 Group Conseil Inc. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file numbers 2022-1528 and 2023-2040.
Thank you very much. A seconder is Councillor D'Amico. I think you had mentioned this before, some of the challenges with this project, but it's a great little community park. It's not even that little. It's a great. It's a lovely park. They did I think everybody's glad it's done. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Numéro 15, modification d'un contrat travaux sécurisant le lot 414-3196. Councillor Kez.
Whereas on April 3rd, 2023, Council awarded a contract to Maçonnerie Bézil to secure a building in ruins for a maximum amount of $165,068.31, including taxes, resolution number 2023-04-105. Whereas the estimated total cost for said contract is $53,296.31, including taxes. I move that the contract awarded to Maçonnerie Bézil to secure a building in ruins, resolution number 2023-04-105, be modified and increased to a maximum amount of $165,068.31, including taxes, that an additional expenditure be authorized in the amount of $53,296.31, including taxes, to secure a building in ruins with Maçonnerie Bézil. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-046.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kez. Do you want to add some commentary on that?
Yeah, this is just with regards to the building located at 4030 Dorchester. And it's not for more fencing, it's just it's going to stay as is, no more fencing, but we still have to pay the bill.
Thank you very much. A seconder will be Councillor Bostock. All in favor? Carried. Item number 16, numéro 16, avis de motion projet de règlement 1607 intitulé Règlement constituant le Conseil local du patrimoine de Westmount. Councillor Peart will give notice of motion.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I hereby give notice of the intention to submit for adoption at a subsequent meeting of council, bylaw number 1607 entitled Bylaw to Establish Westmount's Local Heritage Council. I will table and present the draft of said bylaw. The object of this bylaw is to allow the establishment of a local heritage council to perform the duties entrusted to it by the Section 154 of the Cultural Heritage Act. A copy of the draft bylaw is available for public consultation.
Thank you very much. Do you want to comment on this, or the public will certainly have time to comment on it?
We will have time to comment on it. This is the provincial government allows a municipality to have the option of having a local heritage council. This is the bylaw that will enable Westmount to have one, because it is definitely an essential feature for our heritage city.
Yes, and it's a continual thing. We have a CLP, a Conseil local du patrimoine is what we call it in French, and this is continuing to name members to that.
That's right.
Okay. A seconder on this, I believe.
But there is no, it's just.
There's no seconder because it's a notice of motion. Again, Councillor Peart will have another notice of motion. Avis de motion, projet de règlement 1608, intitulé Règlement modifiant le règlement 1575, constituant un comité consultatif d'urbanisme.
Thank you, Madame la Mairesse. I hereby give notice of the intention to submit for adoption at a subsequent meeting of council, bylaw number 1608, entitled Bylaw Amending Bylaw 1575 to establish a planning advisory committee. I hereby table and present the draft of said bylaw. The object of this bylaw is to amend certain provisions relating to the establishment and role of the Planning Advisory Committee. A copy of the draft of this bylaw is available for public consultation.
Thank you. A seconder, or we don't second again because it's a notice of motion, but some of the gist of this is making sure we have replacements if a member cannot, it's not like we're changing the PAC, we're just making sure there's replacements for the PAC or the CCU. Do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, and there are some administrative changes, some clarifications, some precisions in the bylaw revisions, just to tighten things up. Every time these things come around, we try to we try to lean on what we've learned in the past, and we are in a perpetual state of improvement.
Voilà. Another avis de motion is number 18, numéro 18, avis de motion projet de règlement 1609, intitulé Règlement relatif à la démolition d'immeubles. Again, Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madame la Mairesse. I'm hereby give notice of the intention to submit for adoption at a subsequent meeting of council, bylaw number 1609, entitled Bylaw Concerning the Demolition of Buildings. I hereby table and present the draft of said bylaw. The object of this bylaw is to repeal the current demolition bylaw, number 1317, entitled Bylaw Concerning Demolition, and to replace it in order to comply with Bill 16, entitled An Act to amend the Cultural Heritage Act and other legislative provisions, and thereby modify certain provisions to better fulfill Westmount's heritage protection mission. A copy of the draft bylaw is available for public consultation.
Thank you very much. And again, that doesn't need a vote. Do you have any further comments on that?
This one is a little bit more comprehensive in the sense that it's a bylaw replacement there, and this replacement is also motivated by some changes in the provincial legislation. So it's an opportunity to align our new bylaw with the provincial requirements and the legislation. And in particular, we've learned over the years, and we could probably cite a few recent examples, is that the outgoing language of our demolition bylaw left some room, arguably too much room for interpretation, and this new version will be more precise in its language. It is not
In particular around percentages
particularly around percentages of the buildings and what qualifies as a demolition. Also, and importantly, is currently, as the bylaws currently stand, for Category 1 star buildings, any kind of intervention would trigger a demolition, or an application for demolition, which is illogical because it's not a demolition that's being considered. And what happened? It would invite some anxiety in the community when maybe it just might be a windowsill that was being lowered. But because the bylaw was written and the tool that was being leaned on was the demolition tool, meant that a demolition committee would have to be convened when it could be a very, very minor modification that was being proposed for a property.
that will be dealt heavily with through the PEA process. So this is a bylaw modification to enhance our heritage.
Precisely. And so the same oversight that we will have on our heritage will be complemented by the PEA through the PAC, but not just uniquely through the demolition committee. And at the same time, we are expanding on the definition of what constitutes a demolition. And it's really going to be, hopefully we won't see another case, for example, like 4898 de Maisonneuve, which to anybody naked eye was clearly a demolition at the outset, and it turned into demolition as the work progressed. So again, when I mentioned earlier that we try to learn from our past experiences, and we are in a continuous state of incremental improvement, this is going to be evidence of that work, and I think we'll be well placed for years to come with the way that we oversee demolition in Westmount.
Perfect. Thank you. And the next one is Councillor Kez, notice of motion draft bylaw number 1610 entitled Bylaw Amending Bylaw 726 concerning street traffic and Bylaw 1498 on paid parking. Item 19.
Thank you, Madame Maire. Je donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre à une séance ultérieure du Conseil municipal le règlement 1610 intitulé Règlement modifiant le règlement 726 de la circulation, le règlement 1498 sur le stationnement payant. L'objet de ce règlement est de compléter l'harmonisation des amendes suite au règlement adopté le 21 août 2023. Une copie de ce projet de règlement est disponible pour consultation. And this does not relate to tariffs, it's rather to fines, and it's, as mentioned, to harmonize with the City of Montreal.
Yep. So you don't get discounted parking tickets here. Thank you, Councillor Kez. And the final item tonight is item number 20. It's Councillor D'Amico, sale for default of payment of the 2022 municipal taxes.
Merci, Madame la maire. Attendu que conformément à l'article 511 de la loi sur les cités et villes, entre parenthèses RLQ, chapitre C-19, la Trésorerie a dressé un état indiquant les immeubles sur lesquels les taxes imposées n'ont pas été payées en tout ou en partie pour l'année 2022. Attendu qu'en vertu de l'article 512 de cette loi, le Conseil, après avoir pris connaissance de l'état produit par la Trésorerie, peut ordonner au greffier de vendre ces immeubles en chaire publique au bureau du Conseil ou en tout autre endroit désigné dans l'ordonnance en la manière prescrite dans la loi. I move that Council order the clerk to sell the immovable assets listed on the list prepared by the Treasurer, a copy of which is attached to this resolution to form an integral part thereof, at a public auction to be held in the Council Chamber on December 6, 2023 at 10 a.m., as prescribed by the Cities and Towns Act, RLRQ, Chapter C-19, that the Treasurer be authorized to bid on behalf of the City of Westmount, that the city's bid not exceed the amount of the taxes in principal, interest, and fees, plus an amount sufficient to satisfy any prior claim or hypothecary claim ranking prior to or equal to that of municipal taxes.
Richard Dufour from 22 Anwath. Thank you again. I was very surprised to hear that 46% of the population of Westmount are tenants or renters. That's startling news, interesting news. I have two questions for Mr. D'Amico. In your area, your district, which I believe is Upper Westmount, what percentage of residents or population do you feel is are tenants in that district? I don't hear you, I'm sorry.
Sorry. There are 4 dwellings, I believe they're on Côte-des-Neiges.
So there's only 4 that are rentals?
Houses that are rented in your district, you probably don't have.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I do not.
All right, my second question, I'm curious to know when it came for a motion for the the Vivre en Ville proposal for a tenant registry, you were the only one who dissented or voted against. Why is that?
I stated all those reasons to the mayor. She is free to divulge the reasons if she wants, but I stated those privately. Would you like to?
It's not my role to
No, I'm asking you the question. You're an elected councillor. You
Okay,
voted against
so-
it. I think we have a right to know why you
Sure,
voted against it.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
So,
It is also important to note that Councilor Benito did not see the veto presentation.
So,
Okay.
my first objection to this type of motion is that whenever we meet a lobby group, so you saw the debate on leaf blowers. It was one of the real debates we had in council. So you had the residents, you had the landscapers, you had the city, you had council. That was a real debate. This is very similar. This is a very complex topic. And it's nice to listen to a lobby group, but if you want to really learn about this topic, you should listen to maybe 2 different groups or 3 lobby groups. So it's not good for council to make a decision based on listening to one lobby group and not having the benefit of listening to the other side. So that's one part. This is a very complex area. First of all, it's either federal or provincial jurisdiction. This is just a lobby to push the provincial, which is fine. But there are other solutions to this. One of my objections to this is the divulgation of private information. So it is tax information. The tenant would also have to approve. I'm not sure some of the tenants would approve. And when I make a decision, I want to make sure that the least vulnerable will not be hurt by this decision. I am not sure this is a very sound decision. I'm not sure that the least vulnerable, whether they be owners or tenants, will be better off under this situation. And I feel that really this is a complex topic. This is not a quick fix. This will not fix anything. If you look at the studies on this area, whenever you try to increase, you try to toughen the rules or you try to make things more complicated, the result, you could look at New York City, you could look at other cities, you will see a decrease in supply. So you really need to understand how the supply and demand works in this area. Really the 2 main areas to address this issue, and unfortunately they're not quick fixes, they're supply and helping the tenant pay the rent. So in giving them coupons or subsidies to pay the rent.
All right, thank you.
So
There are other reasons, but I mean, this is, I mean, we could have a debate here. If you wish, we could have the debate. I don't mind, but it is a very complex issue. I've covered some of the reasons.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I think I've added my opinion on this. I think Councillor Peart did as well. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm happy to discuss with you further if you would like, or anyone. Thank you. Last question.
I'll have one last question. It was once asked before at a different roster of municipal councillors, and I never got an answer. So what percentage of the vehicles utilized to clear snow and involved in public works in the city of Westmount are electric or hybrid vehicles? And I'm genuinely interested in knowing this.
So I'm not sure what the exact percentage is. We have several, and when we buy a vehicle, we always look for an electric option if it is available and if it is cost prohibitive. So some of the larger trucks right now are, double the cost. But it is there is always an effort to buy an electric vehicle.
But we don't know the percentage right now, like how many
I
are
can't tell you what the
okay,
percentage is, but I
that's
know that our
interesting.
Public Works Director would be able to get that information for you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's interesting for the
And
citizens of
our fleet
Westmount.
manager would know that. Yeah,
thank
and you'll
you.
see, I mean, you see it every month, there's lots of purchases of vehicles. It's a significant cost to the city. Thank you. Is that it for questions?
Really quick one, sorry. Would you?
Can you just state your name again for the...
Penny Arsenault, St. Catherine Street West. Would you consider bringing back, I know there is a law or a rule, I don't know if it's a law, but in Westmount that you can't idle your car for more than 3 minutes, but it's not being enforced and hasn't been probably for a few years, and it's incredible. If you just walk down almost any street, you'll see 4 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a bylaw against it. We have signs. It is an enforcement issue, I guess, of catching them in the act.
That's what I was asking, if you would consider having public security start looking at that again, because
Less warnings, more fines, is what you're asking for?
I don't even think they're giving warnings, to tell you the truth. I had a little episode where a guy was, I went in shopping, a guy was outside, and 15 minutes later I came by, he was still running his, and I had to ask the public security guy twice to go ask him, and he really felt badly. I understand, because people get very upset when you ask them to turn off their cars, but I think they're
Okay,
a
but
little-
it's certainly something that we can, and I see our Director of Public Security is at the back of the room, relay more enforcement and less tolerance.
I even caught a public security guy running his car one day, too. I asked who I should report him to.
And sometimes that's different, though, because their work, they are genuinely, we'd rather them, like the police, we don't want the police in the office, we want the police on the road, but that also requires them to work from their cars a
Thank
little
you.
bit. So there is some wiggle room there for them. Okay, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Merci tout le monde.